Hello and welcome to the special coverage of the Asia Business Responsibility Summit organized by the Asian Center for Corporate Governance and Sustainability in partnership with the International Finance Corporation. The Asian Center for Corporate Governance and Sustainability was established in 2001 with a vision to become a think tank and a catalytic institution to bring qualitative improvement in the corporate world. To bring all corporates on one platform, the Asian Center for Corporate Governance and Sustainability started the Asia Business Responsibility Summit. This is the second year of the summit and the corporate world has given it a tremendous response.
On behalf of Asian Center for Corporate Governance and Sustainability and Mahendra and Young Knowledge Foundation, I'm extremely delighted to welcome all of you to this second edition of Asia Business Responsibility Summit.
The day began with an inaugural session where the eminent speakers shared their thoughts on the need and importance of corporate governance. M.K. Chauhan also emphasized on why the summit is important.
Some of you may ask, why so much of focus on business responsibility? Because the influence of businesses on our society, on our planet is becoming enormous. Thus I believe that the future of the world will be decided more and more in the boardrooms. I'm making a provocative statement. The future of the world and this planet will be decided more and more in the boardrooms and less in the parliaments and the senates of the world.
The second speaker of the day, Mr. Ashish Chauhan, focused on the role of the stock exchange in promoting business responsibility.
The corporate governance is a huge issue. And it used to be a huge issue 40 years back when BSE started. It still is a huge issue. But if you look back, even 25 years back, we were talking about corporate governance in different context. Not many companies had the same financial year. Not many companies were giving their annual reports in time. Those days, those were the larger issues. And today's issues of insider trading and so on and so forth have come to the forefront because the earlier issues have been resolved. So in a sense, the issues of corporate governance and sustainability are also relating to the time and space in which we work. Currently, in those days also, the corporate governance was more about investor protection, the minority investor protection. There is a huge asymmetry of information and asymmetry of power. Asymmetry of information is a concept where the insiders in the company, that is the managers, the owner managers, have more information vis-a-vis outsiders. And we as an exchange are trying to bridge that gap to make it the gap to be as small as possible, as short as possible. And we are in a sense becoming successful more and more in making the companies report onto the exchange.
N. Venkatraman says that auditors are the gatekeepers to capital markets. His talk also focused on providing a fresh perspective on risk governance.
When we question it ourselves and talk to our people about our purpose, we always go back to what the regulators say about us. And the US regulator in this has actually defined our purpose very well, in which he says that the auditor is the gatekeeper to the capital markets. We are the people who have to ensure that financial statements, the governance risk, etc. of companies that come and list on stock exchanges such as the BSE are in good shape. I hasten to add that management manages the risk and the ownership resides within business units. All that the board is required to do is really to have the oversight over risks. But in doing that oversight, they have to be conscious of the fact that despite the fact that ownership is with the individual business units, the risk is not seen in silos.
Continuing on the topic of responsible business, N. Chandrasekaran, CEO and MD of Tata Consultancy Services, shared his views on why a responsible business is a good business.
See, businesses have certain very unique advantages. They have the ability to scale. They constantly go through the cycle of innovation. So they know how to drive innovation. And businesses know how to build alliances. And above all, they bring in a level of execution rigor and operational excellence in getting things done. And these things can be brought to bear to make a huge impact in driving the social agenda.
These speeches were followed by the keynote address by Philip Armstrong, Senior Advisor, Corporate Governance and ESG Department, International Finance Corporation.
The one issue that I always have when I look at issues of ESG, of course, and when I think of the private sector and think of my own particular experience, is really the issue that boards have to make choices. On the governance side, things are generally more clear-cut and more linear around the question of the independence of the board, issues around the choice of board chairman, and the various criteria in terms of the establishment of the committees. But when you move into the area of environmental and social responsibility, the massive interests that exist there, the different ways in which they interplay with you directly or directly as a business, really puts a lot of responsibility and pressure on the board to make choices and to some extent to use its judgment. And that is where the point around transparency becomes important. It's not just about disclosing what you're required to disclose, but perhaps it's also taking it a step further in being transparent about the challenges that confront you, the risks that you're engaged with, and which choices you've made as a business, because you can't possibly follow every single requirement that every single organization and institution would like you to take as a business.
The Asia Business Responsibility Summit continues after this short break. Welcome back to the Asia Business Responsibility Summit. After the inaugural session, the speakers in the next session spoke about the New Companies Act and its impact on corporate India.
Founder Jamsetji Tata famously said, in a free enterprise, the community is not just another stakeholder in business, but is in fact the very purpose of its existence. In other words, business has to be rooted in the community. This profound statement, which roots the Tata brand since its inception within the work we do for and with the communities we serve, found further resonance with the unique ownership structure which evolved within the group. The sons of our founder, Dorab Tata and Ratan Tata, each endowed charitable trusts with their equity holdings in the parent investment holding company, Tata Sons. And as a result, today, around 2/3 of the ownership of Tata Sons vests with charities. So as a former chairman of Tata Sons, Mr. G.R.D. Tata once said, and I quote, "The wealth gathered by Jamsetji Tata and his sons is held in trust for the people and used exclusively for their benefit. The cycle is thus complete. What came from the people has gone back to the people many times over."
If I really look at the status of business responsibility in the country today, I'll just summarize it in a small piece of शायरी. जिंदगी की असली उड़ान अभी बाकी है, जिंदगी के कई इम्तिहान अभी बाकी हैं, अभी तो नापी है मुट्ठी भर जमीन, आगे सारा आसमान बाकी है. We come from a culture where the responsibility of business was to do more business, was to make more money, and very often our society made money at the cost of the public at large. Whereas the definition as we are seeing it now, we are talking of a triple bottom line, we are talking of how we can take economic growth, environmental stewardship, and social progress. And in the interface between these, social progress, environmental stewardship, there is socio-environmental issues. Social progress, economic growth, there is socio-economic issues. Environment and economy, there is eco-efficiency. How do you get development with sustainability? And finally, at the interface of all three is sustainability. So I think the whole paradigm of the triple bottom line is to look at all these aspects collectively, not mutually exclusive, but collectively exhaustive.
When you look at the big picture in India, the challenge is not about the law. You could get into the fine print of the law and say this law is great, written very well, and it addresses all the issues. Or you could complain about the law being ambiguous and therefore causing a lot of problems. But the real issue in India is not the law, but the quality of administration of the law. So we have to bear in mind that whenever we look at provisions of the law, the quality of administration of the law. And this is borne out. And if you get into World Bank study which is done, which ranks India into ease of doing business, India, as you know, is ranked 142 out of 189 countries in ease of doing business. And if you get down to the individual elements of that ranking, one of the elements is enforcing contracts. And in enforcing contracts, we are ranked, I think, 186 out of 189. We are almost the worst in the world. That is because of our judicial system.
This year, the Asian Center for Corporate Governance and Sustainability, in partnership with the International Finance Corporation, launched Women Director Network in the presence of Mr. Philip Armstrong, Ms. Vladislava Rayabota and Mr. N. Chandrasekharan.
There is yet another pleasant initiative that Asian Center for Corporate Governance and Sustainability is undertaking, which is what is Women Director Network. Most of you might think that as a result of Companies Act 2013, which mandates the presence of one women director on the board, we thought of this initiative, but actually not. We've been believing in empowering women on board, and we believe that women bring in not only the gender diversity on the boards, but they also add to a lot of value-added discussions on the board. The whole dynamics of the discussions on the board changes with the inclusion of one or two women on the board. And why not? Because at least half the planet belongs to that gender. So that's a thought. And now, ladies and gentlemen, launch of Asian Center Women Director Network by Mr. Phil Armstrong. Phil, may I invite you, Slava and Ma'am Kumar, all three of you, to kindly come over here. And Phil will just, with the click of a button, would release Women Director Network.
Many different research saying that gender diversity in boardroom brings business benefits. And we are not talking only about financial performance or shareholders' value. We're also talking about increased employee and customer satisfaction. We also talk about improved and increased investor confidence, and also about increased market knowledge and reputation. And IFC is promoting gender diversity in boardrooms in many different ways.
After this short break, the luminaries of corporate governance are honored at the award ceremony of the Asia Business Responsibility Summit. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the Asia Business Responsibility Summit. After a power-packed day of discussions and deliberations, it was now time to honor and felicitate the very best in the corporate governance and sustainability space. The first award of the day was for the Best Women Director of the Year, and the winner was Ranjana Kumar.
It's indeed a great honor, this award. I really cherish this, and coming at such a late stage in my life, I thought that, I had got into the business of being independent directors on boards, but I never really, it was a great surprise when I got a call from Mr. Chandrasekharan that this award was given, so thank you very much, highly indebted. That's something good. So, I mean, finally, I think it was a wise man who said that when you want something discussed, ask a man. But when you want something done, thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
The Lifetime Achievement Award in Corporate Governance was given to Narayanan Vagul.
I don't know whether I am worthy of the honor, but if jury as eminent as the one which has been read found that I am worthy of it, I accept it with all humility. I have nothing much to say because I don't know much about myself. And when I was talking in there is only one point I want to make. And Damodaran made a point that has given me a hint. I left most of the boards in which I was director. I am still hanging on to a couple of boards. The reason is the new Companies Act has said that if you want to resign from the board, you have to give a reason for that. Whether the conferment of the Lifetime Achievement Award would be a good reason for that, acceptable to the stock exchange, I really do not know.
The Best Audit Committee Award was given to Sridhar Iyengar from Dr. Reddy's.
I believe in the audit committee's role is basically, and the role of any independent director, is to actually do what my uncle always tells me. He used to tell me, Sridhar, in life, you can make things happen, but you can never prevent something from happening. So you look to the areas in which something can go wrong, or in the word of our I come from the US, word of our famous or infamous, depending on your point of view, defense secretary, there are known knowns, there are known unknowns, and there are unknown unknowns. And I always find the challenge for an audit committee is actually to try to identify and move as many of the unknown unknowns to the known unknowns, and then start working on that. Thank you very much.
The Best CSR and Sustainability Practices Award was given to Wipro, and P.S. Narayan was the recipient of the same.
It's with a deep sense of humility that, on behalf of Wipro, I accept this award. We are truly privileged and honored. Normally when one talks about CSR, the connotation is with, social responsibility. But as the award citation and the name of the Asian Center for Corporate Governance and Business Responsibility indicates, a responsible business starts from responsibility to its primary business stakeholders, to its employees, to its customers, to its suppliers, to its investors, and then it moves on to the outer circles of CSR.
Award for Best CSR and Sustainability Practices for Public Sector goes to Bharat Petroleum, and S. Bharatrajan was the recipient of the same.
It's a proud privilege on behalf of Bharat Petroleum to accept this award. I think this represents the collective commitment to CSR and sustainability by almost around 13,000 employees across the organization. We talked about BOOM, but we have done a lot of work on education. The thanks also goes to all the partners like Pratham, like Agastya Foundation, who have done some wonderful work with us across various segments of population. The joy of giving back to society is something which one needs to experience at different points in time. I think in Bharat Petroleum, we truly believe that it is part of the DNA of every individual that makes this happen.
The next award was for the Best Governed Company, and the winner was Marico.
When Marico began operations in the year 1990, it was perceived to be a family-managed organization because it was taken over from Bombay Oil Industries, and the biggest challenge for me at that time was how do I convey to the management, the new team which I had recruited, that it is a professional organization. So the first thing I had made it very clear to the team at that time was, Marico comes first, the promoters come second. So if there is anything, if I have a request from somebody to be employed or to be given a distributorship, at the most I will tell them to evaluate, but ultimately the decision will be the professional decision. And I think that has stood a lot of ground over a period of time. We had earlier brands which were owned by Bombay Oil Industries, and when it came to transferring it to Marico, we transferred it for a very small amount because ultimately it was good for Marico.
The Lifetime Achievement Award in Public Governance was given to Mr. E. Sridharan.
A very proud moment for me to receive this prestigious award from the Asian Center for Corporate Governance and Sustainability. I believe, and indeed I am very sure, I have been selected for this award for my contributions basically to the Konkan Railway and the Delhi Metro, two very important infrastructure projects created in this country in the recent past.
The Lifetime Achievement Award for Ethical Governance and Leadership was presented to Mr. M. Damodaran.
I had the privilege of being in those organizations where I saw outstanding human beings dig in and give of their best, far more than their position demanded, far more than even the situation demanded. People who gave everything they had and a little bit more to reviving the organization that they were associated with. I had the privilege of being the chairman of that organization. The work was done by people who dug in and fought those battles unseen from public eyes, whereas on several occasions like this, I have stepped up on their behalf to accept awards in their name and for their work. This is yet one more occasion when I am doing that. Thank you very much, Asian Center.
And the final award for the evening was for the Best Transformational Leader, and the winner was Mr. Dilip Shangvi.
Clearly, Asian Center sees in me things that I have never found in myself. So when I look at my life, I see that most of the times I have been lucky to be at the right place at the right time. And maybe in many situations we've worked towards converting current difficulty into a competitive advantage.
As we come to the close of the second edition of the Asia Business Responsibility Summit, we hope that it continues to inspire and guide companies to adopt better governance policies.